Premier Division. As a matter of fact, that was supposed to be established in 2020, moving from the 2019 season, where we had the qualification and the selection of the teams that would have been engaged in the 2020 season. So moving into 2021, we are also looking at the possibility of having that established girls Premier Division to start off with. The expectation definitely would be to have, as the years go by, continuation of other age groups, maybe just like with the boys, with the Form 1, under 13, maybe to have a girls competition at that level, and maybe have a girls under 14 competition. But all those things will be further discussed with the General Council, which is the main decision body making, or the main body for decision making outside of the annual general meeting. So that being said, we will want to also consider, if we are unable to get onto the field of play and we are allowed to maybe have a competition maybe indoors, again, providing the directives and the permission and sanction of the relevant authorities, then we could maybe look towards, or not maybe, but we'll be looking towards having a pioneer futsal competition, even if we have to use one or two of the division as a pilot project to establish the futsal competition. Now, we actually were looking towards doing it in the off season, because we felt that in that off season, as we know fully well, some of the most established teams in the world, inclusive of the two teams that will be playing the Copa America Cup final later on tonight. I think that game might be somewhere around 8 p.m. TNT time, is that those two countries, Argentina and Brazil, they have actually futsal leagues, and each of their professional teams, they also have a futsal team inside of it. And some of the most established players, with the Neymar, Ronaldo, to mention a few, they have been rather established and renowned futsal players before moving into the 11-a-side. As we know, even in Spain, for example, they have a professionalized futsal league there. And we have been slowly but surely since 2004, whereas the first time we got involved in futsal, and I myself being a former futsal instructor, and we're doing creditably well as a country with qualifying on both occasions, 2004 and 2008, and even 2012, and even quite recently, earlier on this year, for the futsal, the CONCACAF futsal competition. I think it's all about ensuring that possibly that zones be formulated with the competition, and the secondary school as one of the contributors and the developmental arms of football in the country could also engage in futsal. So we're looking at that all season to most likely interest or get the involvement of the membership to be involved in it too, since we feel it will be beneficial for the school teams in preparation for the 11-a-side season that commences in September of every year. The third point is the constitutional reform for progression. We have, as we know, the importance of a constitutional, Mr. Roy and others who are listening and viewing, the importance of a constitution. We have a constitution that we are guided by, that we adhere to, but a constitution is always, there's always room for improvement with the constitution as we move along and recognize that there are areas that we need to address and officially place it in the constitution so that there will be minimum of ambiguity and more certainty and clarity, with the constitution being the guide to the governance of the football within the SSFL. So for example, one of the areas that we'll be looking at at this present moment, the representative from the zone for the national at the national executive level, that person, if they are unable to attend a national executive meeting, it means that a member, no other member from the zone cannot replace that individual. So there are no alternatives. So at this present moment, that is something we'll officially have to put into the Constitution, since we feel it is imperative and necessary that in any executive meeting at the national level in particular, that all zones, every single zone of the 5 zones in Trinidad and Tobago must have a representative at the national executive level. So we will be addressing that matter to put it officially into the Constitution as one of the uh, several examples that we'll be looking at with the amendment to the Constitution to ensure that there is further and greater involvement with an all-inclusive nature of the Constitution, with less ambiguity, as I said, and more clarity. Point number 4 is dealing with the exploring of innovative and progressive activities re the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, Mr. Roy and others, we are very cognizant of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, there are things in our lives that are controllables, and there are other things that are out of our control. However, the COVID-19 pandemic, we are not sure as a person, as a people, as a nation, as a world, how long it will last, the longevity of it. So that is something that is out of our control. But what we can do is put things in place to ensure that we survive the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are there still alive, healthy, and strong to continue to get back to the norm, which will not be the norm anymore, actually. It will be what we'll call an abnormal norm. And I've already addressed 1 or 2 of the activities. If the COVID-19 pandemic continues in its the negative impact that it has, then we'll have to have alternative activities to still keep our student athletes engaged, interested. And for example, I just mentioned the online skills competition as one, to also have them involved in also online webinars and seminars, for example, pertaining to the mental health state of our student athletes, which we are very concerned about. Youths and young ones, by and large, naturally, since birth, love to move. As human beings, it's a natural tendency to move. And that's why there are large play fields or grounds attached to schools. So one can imagine with the confined space in their homes, that these younger ones who want to be able to move, they are unable to. So in as much as that being the case, we want to keep them engaged. We want to advise them. We want to encourage them that there are certain activities that can be done in the space that they have at their homes, limited as it is. In the press conference that we had earlier on today, we are now being told that physical activities you can return to physical activities as long as it's no more than 5. We are also being told that the competitive sporting disciplines are not provided permission as yet, but I'm sure with those limited 3, 4, and 5 persons within a group, that some level of training and tactical approaches with the coaches, technical expertise can be shared, and the drills and the skills can be done to keep the student athletes engaged and interested, since we do not want them to lose interest in this number one most popular sport in the world, which is football, and as the Americans will call it, soccer. The fifth and final point under the vision, goals, and objectives, Mr. Anthony and others, provision, or is actually provision of astute governance and leadership moving forward. Now, I think it is important for us as a nation to understand, I think it is no secret that the present state of our football in Trinidad and Tobago it is at a very low level. It is important, therefore, as one of the prime stakeholders, which is the Secondary School Football League, to keep our head high, to do all that is necessary, to lead by example, to assist, to be a major contributor towards revamping, re-establishing, re-energizing, re-engaging, and reinstating the image, the status level of the football in Trinidad and Tobago. We are naturally gifted, thank God, for well talented players. What has to happen is that the governance, the administrative aspect of it, the structure, the system, these are things that must be properly dealt with, put in place so that there will be some smooth, harmonious continuation of a program from the youth level straight up to the senior level. And with it, as we know, the senior team that will be involved, and we thank them for shedding a bit of hope and igniting a bit of light to the nation of Trinidad and Tobago when they defeated the French Guiana quite recently in the qualifying of the CONCACAF after having defeated Montserrat earlier on, and for giving us a level of hope in moving forward. It's not going to be an easy task, but at least the elders, in this case, the senior team, is trying to lead by example, since the younger ones, the youth teams, and even those in the secondary schools who are looking for mentorship, guidance, inspiration, would expect that the senior teams in particular, providing that they continue to perform or do well, then it will be a great inspiration to the lower divisions to even follow in their footsteps. That being said, we need to understand that with governance and leadership in moving forward, the SSFL under my stewardship will continue as much as possible by the grace of God to ensure that we govern with that level of accountability, transparency, integrity, credibility, and also that all-inclusive nature, which means including the membership in our decision making in moving forward. So that being said, Mr. Anthony, Roy, and others, it brings us to the end of this first segment on the PowerPoint presentation with the vision, the goals, the objectives, the plans that we have. I don't know if they're going to have any questions at this time. The other part of the PowerPoint presentation will deal with the student athlete centered approach, and it also entails with 5 points there. So I now pause in the event that there are questions for this segment.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President, for the enlightening information that you shared with us. Wonderful information, that we could have a better understanding of, the way forward.
Yes.
In terms of the SSFL in Trinidad and Tobago, and some of the challenges
Yes.
that you are dealing with as an organization,
Yes.
to put on some of these events that you brought forth to us today. I think a number of items stand out
Mm-hmm.
for me as a full-time soccer coach here in the US. One is the futsal,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
very much interesting. Um, you know, having that futsal league, in Trinidad, because it's something that it's really helping in the US here a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot.
Yes.
And because of the different states you have in the US and the different seasons where we go indoors and play around November, December, for October could be October time to January, February, we will go from outside to inside and we would play futsal,
Yes.
which, helps a whole lot with the kids. The game is a much faster game. It teaches the kids to be able to control the ball, to play as a team. Also, it sharpens their awareness and the ability to be able to play in that environment, a constant, consistent moving around.
And
And
I
I
think
think,
if I may interject,
for sure,
Mr.
for sure, for
Roy,
sure.
is that even with the futsal,
Mhm,
which I've been part of for a number of years, we
mhm.
all will be aware, is that it allows the players to think very fast. You have to concentrate, keep focused, because you don't have much space and much time as you are allowed, maybe in the big field football 11 aside. You have a smaller space, it is quick, it is sharp, quite intense, as you said, and you must be fully focused.
Answered. I think one of the questions I would like to ask too, and I know you're going to get into it, so I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yes.
In terms of you know opportunities for these kids to go forward and develop themselves, gaining the sort of experience that they need
Yes.
to go forward. What is the SSFL discussing or looking at?
Right. Good question. Excellent question. As a matter of fact, the answers for that will be given in the next presentation. The
Mhm.
5 point, which will deal with the student-centered approach, student athletes. So I have
I'm,
it ready to prepare and share.
I'm jumping the gun here. I'm jumping the gun. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go because it's so
Yeah.
important. It's so important, and as I said, it's so nice to have you here too, that we could have the discussions, that we can share this information because it really needs to be shared. And I
Yes.
think I'm in constant contact with kids in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not just Trinidad and Tobago, the whole Caribbean region, Europe, the African continent, South America, on a daily basis,
Yes.
and kids trying to get in the US. And as you know, I
Yes.
work with the kids, help the kids get through and having discussions with them. And, I have to encourage some of the kids home in Trinidad, especially Trinidad and the Caribbean, where there is a sort of quote unquote, the virus, COVID-19 is sort of posing some challenges.
Yes.
And some of the things I have to encourage and motivate the kids, to let them know, hey, you can still exercise in your yard.
Okay.
You know,
Sure.
you have a bedroom, you could still play soccer in there, because I had the great Tom Bayer. I don't know if you guys know of that gentleman. I had him on my show the last two programs. Tom is world renowned
Yes.
for Soccer Begins at Home. And we went into exclusive information. He has changed the landscape in the soccer in the Asian continent, and he works with thousands of kids through the government of China,
Yes.
with kids starting to play soccer in the bedroom at home. No shooting of the ball, but dribbling and moving around and playing in tight spaces, that kind of stuff. And there's really no excuse that for you not to be able to go outside or do
Yes.
something in your home. I myself too, in terms of my environment, I have my condo here. And I have my guest bedroom and I work out in my guest bedroom outside of going
Right.
outside coaching.
As a
I
matter
mean,
of fact, if I may add, is that
sure,
uh,
sure.
you just need a, if you understand about even march preparedness and fitness,
Yes,
although you would need the space eventually on the big field to execute certain tactical approaches, that
yes,
even in a confined space, a 2 by 4
hmm
meters as the case might be, there are so many things that can be done in a small space with your fitness and with your drills and your skills. It's about being possibly guided properly and to be able to still continue to practice and execute in that given space until the bigger space that we are all eagerly awaiting on, is opened up by the restrictions raising. I don't know if Anthony would want me maybe to continue with the other presentation and then we
Oh
can
yes,
maybe,
oh yes. And
yeah?
also there's a question here from the
Okay.
fool was asking the age limit of the SSFL.
A question being asked about the age limit of the SSFL.
Yes, is there a limit? Is there a limit in terms of the age limit? What is the max age that in the SSFL?
Well, okay, I'll give the entry and then I'll give the max,
Sure.
which is we remember we are working along with the Ministry of Education. We need to be very mindful of that. And the Ministry of Education will have certain guidelines that we need to follow, being part and parcel of being incorporated with them. So there are rules and guidelines. So for example, within the Form 1, you will have some students that are 11, 12, 13, sometimes even 14, and in exceptional cases, 15. But you don't want a 15-year or 14-year-old in Form 1 to compete or be competing against maybe a 10-year-old or 11-year-old. So that's why we have it as uh, under 13 or Form 1. So if you're in Form 1, you need to be 13 and under. You cannot be older than 13. If you're older, that being the case and you're in Form 1, then you can participate in the under 14 or the under 16 category. That being said, the the age group that we cut off is at 20/21 as the case might be. And that being said, working along with it with the Ministry of Education, unless we have some good reason to have justification to change it. Remember, if the ministry allows students to attend school even at that age, and that student wishes to take part in SSFL competition, we cannot deny the student to take part in it. While you may also have a 16-year-old or maybe a 17-year-old maybe representing a school, and we do have it at the Premier Division level, and sometimes competing against a player who is 20 or 21 as the case may be. That's the situation as it is there constitutionally. So we're working along with it unless, well, there's a change in the system. You have to understand that the student of any age within the group of Form 1 straight up to Form 6 upper level, then they're entitled to play if they so desire.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. And
Yeah, I trust that answers the question.
please be guided if you are interested in starting the second part of your presentation, which is the student athlete, which I think a lot of the guests really with bated breath is waiting on to hear, because I think that is quite interesting, because as you know,
Yeah.
a lot of kids are looking at scholarships, and I just want to add some information to it.
Yes.
You mentioned just now that if the Ministry of Education, allows it, then the college league will, if you are 21, 22.
No, not 22, not 22, 20,
21.
21, 3 more, yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
My apologies. I would like to add to that there are schools here, which is NAIA school
Mhm.
in the US. And the limit here, from my understanding, is 23 years of age.
Okay.
So you could enter that school at 21, 22, 23,
Right. Yes.
and enter
Uh,
school. There's a lot of kids.
And still be able to play soccer.
NISA league. A lot of kids at the age of at 20 feel that's it. And 21, that's it. You can still play NCAA in the United States
But that's
here,
great. That's
in an
great.
NCAA university or school in the US, as I have a lot of kids that I am helping get into NISA schools in the US right now. So the sky's the limit. I think one of the things that I do too, I am very much close to my friend and brother JB Clayton Morris. We chat a whole lot
Okay.
in Trinidad. Yeah, my
President
friend.
of the Super League.
Yeah, my friend and brother. We chat a whole lot, and
Yes.
one of the things I do too with some of the kids that come out of the college league who are trying to make that pathway over to the US that I'm helping. One of the things I encourage them to do is to go into UTT and do some courses, and also play with UTT under Morris to get that structure, that discipline, that organizational part of your game and life together before you come across to the US.
Yes.
And I want to repeat this word, and I know you're going to have it inside of your PowerPoint: student athlete.
Come into that. Sure. Come into
Very
that.
much so. It's a student. Hear the word first:
Yes.
student
Yes.
athlete.
Yes.
Yes, it's an order.
Yes.
And one of the things I like to add to is that when you get a 4-year scholarship, you have to realize this is a year by year scholarship. There's no guarantee inside of that to tell you that you are sealed on a 4-year scholarship, because you have to keep your grades up and your performance on the field up and your performance off the field to a certain standard. So it's not like you coming to school and a school is saying, well, this is the top footballer in the school, so, we're going to give him a bye. It doesn't work in the US. You got to study your books. And I would say to you, the school will do everything in its power for your grades to reach where it is.
Well, if I may add, Roy,
Sure, sure.
is on that very same matter, although it's on in the PowerPoint presentation, and I like the idea where you reiterate, and I want people to get that in the back of their minds. It is student athlete, which is different than athlete student. No, let me look at the last one first. An athlete student is going to be more focused on his athletic career, his athleticism, whether it be football, cricket, basketball, netball, swimming, athletics, etc. And then he will think thereafter about his studies, which is in hindsight. Now, with the student athlete, the other way around is that because we are also attached to the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Education will promote the career pathway and advancement of the educational aspect of the child. However, within the school system, as they are progressing in their studies, there are various extracurricular activities that you could be involved in, different sporting events, inclusive of football. And that being the case, it means that in order, and that is something I think we need to cognizantly continue to work on and consistently also work on it, that all schools involved in the secondary school football league, whether from the Form 1 division up to the Premier division, bear that in mind, that at the end of our exercise and our efforts, the students must benefit from it, which means there is a life after football. But in doing that, it means that you need to ensure that you marry very harmoniously and meticulously your academics to that of your sport, and your sport to that of the academics. For example, in the pursuing of scholarships, as you would be aware, that one of the things that the universities and the colleges would look for to see if you were involved in any extracurricular activity in your school that you were attending, and more importantly, if you're involved in any particular sport and to what level. Now that works in your favor, and that is why even St. Mary's College, if I may be allowed to call a particular school, they have actually made it mandatory that physical education is to be done by by all the forms from Form 1 straight up to Form 6. Because by having that as part of your curriculum and making it mandatory, it means that you're also encouraging the students to have something that is a semblance and falling under the physical education ambit, to have that will work to your advantage when you move forward. I'm sure maybe there may be other schools, but I know of that one in particular. Um, that being said, we also have to uh, recognize, as you had mentioned earlier on, about that issue with some students who may be late developers.
Mhm.
Some students and players, student athletes, show great promise very early from their skills, their potential, but others, just like their academics, they may be they may be late developers, and we have to facilitate for that. Now, what is very interesting, Mr. Roy and others, I have been following very closely the motivational "There is Hope" with Mr. Dion Lafoucault and the TTFA. And from the very first presenter, Mr. Don Lafoucault's brother, followed by Carlos Edwards, Soca Warrior player. Then we had Mr. Andrews, the Olympian, sailing, followed by the Sir Brian Lara, cricket icon, followed by um, Akeem Stewart, the Paralympian, and Karen Forbes, who's the uh, national, senior national player and also captain. And we also had last week Mr. Kenwin Jones, former Soca Warrior player, and also captain of the national team. And every single one of them, every single one, spoke about the importance of their academics. And they spoke about the challenges that they have. Even Brian Lara mentioned that he had struggles in his earlier times when he was in Form 1, and he had from one school, which was San Juan North, to Fatima College, he had to do over Form 1 in order to ensure that he had a very good foundation in his education to go on to Form 2 and 3. And there's where he was able to now get a good handle on his education because of the importance. And it works both ways. It work both ways, which means that if the child is showing, the student athlete, or even the athlete student in this case, is showing great potential in one area, academic, then you can maybe transfer that discipline into a sporting discipline, as the case of football. And if you have a student, an student athlete who is very good at maybe, for example, football, very skilled, very talented, but not as good in the academics, then his confidence that he gets out of the football can be easily well executed and controlled for him to be able to perform better gradually in the confidence building in his academics. So it is understanding the importance of both and knowing fully well. Our ambassador is Shaka Hisler, the secondary schools football league ambassador, world-renowned professional player, World Cup player also. And now, after his playing days, he's ESPN analysis, sport analysis, all right? And with it, his law degree, etc. We could also mention about Atto Bolden. After his days of competing on the track, he's also now one of the more established athletics commentator in the world. As a matter of fact, he'll be involved as one of the commentators in the upcoming Olympics in Tokyo between July the 23rd to August the 8th. So we are saying over and over the importance of ensuring that you establish yourself, you get your qualification, you move towards doing it. For example, Kenwin Jones, he's now pursuing his master's in sports management at the University of the West Indies. So I can go on and on about the importance, but I think by now we're supposed to get a crystal clear image about ensuring that we do not ignore one at the expense of the other one.